Alright, recording? Let's go. Alright. Fuck. I don't know how to introduce this. I mean, it's in the title, right? Alright, let's look at the tiers. Good, not worth it, bad. Alright, pretty explicit. This is gonna be a lightning round. I gotta clean my desk off, man. There's dust everywhere. Alright, built to destroy. Good. So the most interesting thing, I think, honestly, is, okay, we don't have to talk about what's good. Every trait is basically just a normal perk, but they attached a negative aspect to it, right? Because you can choose more than one, and you get them for free. This is also why, personally, in my runs, I use Unlimited Traits mod, because I think the downsides are good. You know, if you want the good side of the perk, the downside is you're gonna feel the downside the entire run. Or at least, you know, you're supposed to, right? But the problem is, almost none of these will you ever feel the downside the entire run. Right? And I think Built to Destroy is a very good example of this. So, Built to Destroy, you get an extra 3% chance to crit. Personally, I think it's a little too low, but the downside is also very marginal. It's 15% weapon degradation. Something you're going to notice, repair is incredibly overpowered in New Vegas, which is probably what we're going to get to when I get to skills, but you can fully repair something as long as you have enough of the other item. So there's no Fallout 3 stuff. Like, if you have 10 knives, you can get a fully working knife. You know, and I think that kind of just, like, obliterates how limiting the degradation could be. There's also the fact that, like, if you know what to pick for to get weapon repair kits, you never run out of weapon repair kits. Eddie, you can go to Lonesome Road and not fight a single enemy and get the thing that lets Eddie repair your weapons for you for free. You literally don't have to fight a single enemy in Lonesome Road to get that upgrade, and then you can leave. You can get Raoul, and if you make Raoul peaceful, which I guess is technically better, right? Even more. Like, there's just no world where this is... In jury rigging annihilates the downside of this perk. Like, jury rigging is WOP. And just considering all of that, there's, like, literally no downside. If anything, I think that the degradation is noticeable on something like, let's say, a Gatling laser. But, like, if anything, I think that makes the game better in, like, a way that it extends the gameplay. Like, you should kind of be having to repair a fucking Gatling laser pretty often, right? Yeah? You know, like, it's kind of like what is it, like a 15-pound thing of steel that spits out laser bullets at, like, it literally shoots out, like, what, 7 a second or something? Maybe you should have to repair that a little bit often, you know? A little bit more often than something like, you know, like a laser rifle. I think in that regard, Built to Destroy is just pure good. It also helps the game. Claustrophobia, on the other hand, I think is not worth it. And, you know, we're actually going to put this one in bad, because you don't have control over the effect at all. Built to Destroy, you can get Raoul, weapon repair kits. If you're a guy, like a mail courier, you can be gay. And Major Knight will help you out for free. Unless I'm mistaken. You can be friends with the Brotherhood. You can get Raoul to fix your equipment. You can have him along for regular maintenance. All this stuff. But you just flatly have no control over whether or not certain events that need certain skill checks that are dependent on your special attributes are inside or outside. So it's bad. The only way I see this being a thing is if, like, you're doing, like, a super, like, dump luck but get luck mechanically up build. So, like, you take, what would it be? You would take, like, Claustrophobia and Early Bird and then have a possible +3 to your luck when you need it. But then, like, how are you counteracting it when you're inside? You know, it's just, like, it'd be super niche, and it's not necessary. The game, you've got enough special points. if you're manipulating your specials, then you're going to be doing it substantially. Like, you're going to take party time mentats to make your companions, like, really strong. But if you're doing, like, 1 point, you're doing that more for, like, the special stats. And at that point, not being able to control them is bad. Early bird, not worth it. It's completely controllable. There's very few events in the game that are tied to time where this would have to be the case. Like, the only one that comes to mind is Bye Bye Love. Because it has to happen around midnight. So for this one, you would have to have a speech of 89 to complete the quest peacefully, instead of 85. Other than that, though, it's not really that bad. Even most of the time, you just carry around, like, mentats to counteract with the negative effects. For most of it, you know? And then some beer, and that's like pretty much all your stats back. You can always just sleep. I guess in hardcore mode, this makes you go through water faster because you would be waiting more, sleeping more, but it's not really that tough to get water, you know? It's, like, really easy. There's literally people on the map that sell, like, 40 bottles of water at a time. But I just think it's a hassle to deal with. I haven't used it yet. It just sounds incredibly tedious to constantly be waiting all the time, but who knows. It is also worth noting that mechanically, it is kind of grosser to look at the Wasteland at night, so maybe this is worth it. Just always wait for day. But yeah, I wouldn't know. This does seem like it has high potential for companions, for dumping charisma and still getting companion charisma up really high. But other than that, it just seems more tedious than it's worth. Fast shot. I think fast shot is really weird. Okay, so like at a super high level on a build, when you have like 100 weapon skill and you meet the weapons requirement like strength wise, you're not gonna feel the negative effects, but like early on, man, this shit makes automatic weapons like just completely unable to be aimed. I'm gonna put it at not worth it. I think in general, even for an automatic weapon, you value accuracy so much more than speed. Like, I think you value damage, like, then accuracy, then crit, and then speed. You know? Four Eyes. Four Eyes is bad. The effect is that it temporarily gives you +2 perception, but it permanently damages your perception. I guess I should be explaining all these right, but perception takes away a special stat permanently, and not to mention it takes away perception, and you don't want to have to put extra points into perception, considering that it's like literally useless outside of perks, which need the special stat. So Four Eyes is like pretty garbage. I wish that it would just -1 perception and then +1, you know, instead of like permanently -1 +2. That's really weird, but I don't know. Good natured is really overpowered. So it seems completely neutral at first, right? You get +5 to 5 skills, -5 to 5 skills. That sounds even. But in a majority of playthroughs, good natured is disproportionately benefit to you. So good natured adds 5 to your. It's the intelligence skills. It's repair, medicine, science, and speech and barter. But it takes away from all of your combat skills. Now this might just be me, but when I make a build, I pretty intentionally, like premeditatively, decide what weapons I'm going to be using. Like, I use a guns build, so you get perks early on, so that your late game is super strong, right? That's how most people do it. And if you do that, then good-natured is only -5 to, like, let's say your energy weapons, or if you're doing, like, melee or unarmed, maybe both of those, because you need both, right, for a melee build. But then the other ones that you're damaging, like guns, energy weapons, explosives, you wouldn't even feel it. But you do feel +5 to all the positives. Completely beneficial. You don't feel it. Plus skill points are too easy to get in this game anyways. 12 to 15, what is it, 12 to 16 from skill books. You can get even more skill books if you do the DLC. Skilled Exploit, Lonesome Road perk, all the implant skill points. It's way too easy to get skill points in this game. Heavy-handed. So heavy-handed for a melee build is explicitly good. Heavy-handed for an unarmed build is explicitly bad, though. So I'm going to put it in kind of not worth it, because a lot of melee and unarmed builds just kind of use whatever weapons they want. If you plan on using melee weapons, you can get Elijah's Ramblings and just completely negate the perk and get a damage boost. Ninja also helps it counteract this, so if you do a stealth melee build, you're going to be ignoring the downside anyways. But if you do an unarmed build, you're kind of screwed. You really don't want to nerf critical damage on an unarmed build. So I think we're going to leave it there. I also just think that this one is disproportionate. All the other ones feel pretty fair. The upside isn't like extreme if the downside isn't. This one is pretty disproportionate. Negative 60% crit damage is insane for only 20% damage. I almost think 50-50 is a better deal, but I get that at the late game that's like way too strong. I don't know. Maybe 25-50 would kind of be better, but it's just not enough right now, I think. Hoarder isn't worth it either. You'd have to get like strong back and... So, like, okay, for clarity, when I do a heavy weapons gun with a Gatling laser, you usually carry around 100 to 120 pounds of stuff, including items that, you know, everything you're going to carry on a normal run. If you do like a small guns build, it's like 70 to 80, you know? Just realistically carrying around that much shit isn't worth it. Like, carrying around an extra 50 amount of pounds for 25 more pounds isn't worth it. If you do, like, strong back and burden to bear, maybe. But at that point, you don't need Hoarder. Yeah. Again, I think it's a little disproportionate. Although you could argue that into the late game, you won't feel the special drops. Hot-blooded is good. The one downside, obviously, is that your skills drop whenever you drop below, which means that your energy weapons or your guns could drop to below 100 when you get below 50. And if this is the case, then hot-blooded would not would nerf your skill. This would make weapons like medicine stick much less accurate. It would make things like the Gatling laser less accurate, which would really disadvantagize your damage buff, right? The idea is that it harms your skills and your skill points, not skill points, your action points. So that when you deal more damage, you're being less accurate. Which is kind of a fair trade-off. There is actually a hidden way to counteract this that a lot of people don't know. Whenever you have a skill at 100 and read a skill book, the skill actually raises past 100, but it's invisible. So if you have comprehension and you read a guns and bullets while you have a gun skill of 100, and then the -2 agility happens from hot-blooded, you would still mechanically have 100 guns. So you can actually negate hot-blooded's skill drop that way. If you're willing to do that, then this skill literally has no downside. The only thing it always does is it lowers your action points by, I think, like 6 or 9, but that's really insignificant in the late game. That's really insignificant at all. VATS isn't too overpowered, so having flat damage buff is really good. Kamikaze is really good. -2 damage threshold early on makes, like, Scorpion Gulch harder. But it doesn't change anything besides that. But you'll feel +10 action points the whole run. It'll give you a bunch of extra moves on weapons you wouldn't think you would get. Not to mention, it's kind of like a build to destroy, where permanently being a little softer kind of like makes the game feel better, just because it adds a little bit of difficulty. It's kind of nice. Logan's Loophole. We're gonna put this one in not worth it, and it's for one reason and one reason only. The idea of your chems lasting twice as long is literally a perk in the game. Now, granted, you can stack them and get it to, I believe, 4 times the original chem length, even more with Day Tripper and Stealth Girl, but that's just not worth it, man. It's not worth it for losing, 10 perks? Unless you play very short games. Now, if you're trying to rush Vegas and rush the end game by going through Scorpion Gulch, heading up, gambling for your implants, buying Gunrunner's weapons, you know. If you're doing that, obviously take Logan's Loophole. It's super strong. But even then, I feel like you'd rather still take like this tier of perk and then just get like Day Tripper and Fixer, you know, if you're gonna take chems that much. And it only costs 50 to get cured, and all your addictions stack. So even if you're addicted to like beer, which is good for charisma, Psycho, Med-X, Jet, all at the same time, you can just go get your addiction cured once. And that's it. Like, it's super easy to counteract. It's not worth it. It's only worth it if you plan on doing the DLC, where you can remove it at Old World Blues. Even then, I think it'd be funner to get to that point in Old World Blues with all these perks. So I don't know. If you do a DLC only run, this might be worth it, but I don't know. Loose Cannon is bad. It's like explicitly if you want to do only throwing spears and like tomahawks, but if you plan on using explosives, this harms your build because you don't want the grenades coming closer to you. The whole point of throwing them, you know. Skilled. Skilled is good. I think it breaks the game. I think doing skilled twice is way too many skill points early on, and it's very disproportionate. You just have too much experience. The only point that you feel the skill points is like if you 100% New Vegas' base game, like everything in the Mojave, a non-skilled player would be at like level 41, 42, and with skilled you'd be at like 39. Yeah, it's like quite the drop. Oh well. But early on, it's kind of more valuable to have that, and you'll keep passing more skill checks, getting you more experience faster. So it kind of cancels itself out. This doesn't affect perks or anything. I kind of wish this worked more like Gifted, but oh well. But I get it, you know, obviously. Small frame is good. Extra point to your agility, and it makes your limbs break easier, which is very good. Your limbs don't really break often enough without it. Basically, once you have 2 different doctors you can cycle between for doctor's bags, your limbs and normally are kind of fine. And you usually get tough guy around that point too by the time you get to like Novak. But with this, even past Novak, you're going to be wanting doctor's bag all the time, which is good. That's what the devs wanted. Trigger discipline is good. So the biggest downside to trigger discipline isn't actually the speed. It's that it has a hidden negative penalty, which I disagree with. I don't think it should be in the game. Firing slower is the penalty, but it actually makes your AP cost higher. But accuracy is very important. I think accuracy is like the most important thing in the game besides raw damage. Trigger discipline leads to some really powerful VATS builds. Even for auto weapons, trigger discipline means that even if you're not firing as fast, like all your bullets are hitting, which is really valuable, especially in the late game when you have like max charge shots. Obviously, Wild Wasteland is like, if you play an energy weapons build, it's like down here. If you don't, it's up here. So we're going to put Wild Wasteland somewhere in the middle, I guess. I don't think Wild Wasteland should be a trait, to be clear. It should be like a hardcore mode type option. But what are you going to do? The Alien Blaster is incredibly powerful. But you want the YCS if you're doing energy weapons. If you're not doing energy weapons, the Alien Blaster is like a good weapon to pull out just for like dealing with random death claws. If you go get it early, which is possible because you can snipe them, you can get the alien blaster for like heading to like doing Volaire or Volari. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. Or doing like the Bleed Me Dry stuff earlier. I don't know. You know, honestly, it's like I think it's here. But yeah. So yeah. Bad. Yeah. Not usually worth it. And good. To clarify, even though this is only 1 out of like 5 possible combat styles that drags it from being good, energy weapons are the most powerful combat style, and the YCS doesn't benefit from any perks. You can't use the YCS in VATS, so none of the VATS perks affect it, and it doesn't get boosted by Plasma Spaz or Laser Commander. So the YCS is literally just dependent on your weapon skill, your energy weapon skill, and not getting the YCS is just always a negative. Even if you use it for 1 shot, if you can get a headshot off, that just takes care of 1 opponent. Like for dealing with Deathclaws, that's just so nice. But you can still get a normal Gauss rifle, I guess. Yeah, okay, this is good. But yeah. Insanely in depth. Yeah. Alright. How do I... Wait, I forgot. I forgot how to plug. I haven't made videos in so long. I stream on Twitch. This Nick is a neat. I tweet on Twitter that's Nick is a neat. I retweet stuff. Like anime girls and stuff about Pokemon. I have a VOD channel. Nick is a VOD. I think I can actually just double click this, right? Open a tab. Yeah, look at this. I uploaded all my permadeath. We did a permadeath run of energy weapons, and it got overpowered. So, but yeah. Alright, bye. Have a good day.